Welcome back to another episode of All the Glitters. I'm Kalen Hurley. Let's start the show. From the OHL London Knights to the NHL Golden Knights, it is official as of yesterday, but for this podcast, Mitch Marner, number 93, the first Golden Knight to wear the number, is the Golden Knight. This free agency was really up and down. There was lots of big moves made, lots of surprising things, lots of big moves in a sense that sometimes players not getting moved was the big deal. But at the end of the day, we're going to unpack the Vegas side of things. We'll touch on some shockers and some, what's going on elsewhere throughout the league. But the biggest order of business is Mitch Marner's a Golden Knight. Now, he signed 8 times 12, and I know last episode we had talked about signing more of a shorter term contract, that 4-year mark, that 3-year mark. Our GM, Mr. Kelly McCrimmon, dispelled a lot of those things today in his press conference, and we'll get into that here in a bit. But at the end of the day, we got a sign and trade done with Toronto. And it only cost us 1-for-1 Nick Waugh. Now, there's going to be speculation whether you want to believe that. If you want to be on the pessimistic side of this move, then we gave up Nick Waugh and did the sign and trade so that we wouldn't get called for tampering. If you look and trust Kelly McCrimmon at value, this trade was actually done more Friday evening and took a couple of days to get going and moving because there was a lot of moving parts. And the hangup was, in fact, Darren Ferris and Mitch Marner's, or being Mitch Marner's agent and the Mitch Marner camp. So, and then today, Mitch Marner spoke at a press conference and said, kind of mimicked what Kelly was saying and said, like, hey, he needed a couple of days to mull it over. But then afterwards, he had sought after some counsel with Max Pacioretty and Ryan Reeves and what they thought about Vegas, and he'd been talking to them for a bit, and then obviously he confided in his wife and his parents and his family and made sure that everybody was on the up and up. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. Mitch Marner's a Golden Knight for the next 8 years, or, well, I do believe it comes with a full no move as well. So in that $12 million contract, if the cap continues to go up and explode the way it is, that's going to look like a pretty cheap deal later on. I mean, he signed the Rantanen deal, but in that Rantanen deal, they gave up Logan Stankoven in like 4 different picks. This one's 1-for-1 Waugh. Now, different situations call for different outcomes, whereas, Carolina and Dallas didn't need to make those moves. Toronto needed to get something back for Mitch Marner, or else they were going to look like maybe it might have been one of the poorest asset managements since the salary cap, like this era. So considering the type of player and considering, all of what happens and all of what comes with Mitch Marner. Now, we have very, very happy Vegas fans. We have very, very happy Toronto fans. We have some pretty negative Vegas fans, and we have some big, mad Toronto fans too. Which is and isn't shocking. Like you always hear like, man, Toronto, everybody's always in on Toronto and they think they're the center of the hockey media, but that's usually coming from other fan bases. And, when you watch them get bounced this year in the playoffs and, you started to hear some of that, and maybe Vegas is in a vacuum a little bit. Maybe we've gotten so much hate and we are a newer franchise that we haven't been beaten down by the Toronto drum over the years, but it's starting now. There's a lot of like the good luck, good riddance. The guy only wanted, which was funny because initially he's only doing this for the money. And then when he didn't, he's like, oh, well, he's only doing this because he wants to stick it to Toronto and yada, yada. I mean, his press conference today seemed pretty sincere that he was, he didn't ever planned on leaving Toronto. I mean, that's a guy where he was born and raised there and was a Toronto Maple Leaf fan as growing up. He's like the fastest player to as many points. He's like fourth all time in points in Toronto. He's like literally would have and could still get his number, up in the rafters. But, when you leave that sour grapes taste and, it doesn't seem like it is organizationally him leaving in bad terms, but it definitely seems that way with the fans. So it is what it is. I don't like shit talking players on the way out of the door. It's not my favorite when they do it about the organization, which is actually pretty shocking. And we'll get into that with two former Golden Knights because it's funny to see how certain players react to leaving versus how they feel a few years later because of their situations they came in. But it was cool to see him today in the press conference. It was really cool and interesting to listen to Kelly McCrimmon. So, to kind of back this up a little bit, there was a lot of noise around what the return was going to be. Initially, there was rumors saying that it was going to be William Karlsson, which hilariously enough, that is who I'm rocking tonight, felt the jersey was appropriate today or for tonight's episode. And then you heard Tomas Hertl going, and McCrimmon said, as about fired up as I've ever seen him speak. Basically, all of those allegations were false. He called up Carly, and I think his words verbatim were, "Sorry, Carly, that you have to deal with this shit. It's not true. Tomas, you're not getting traded, yada yada." And I mean, those are basically his word for word dialogue up there, which is not something normal for a GM, but especially for Kelly McCrimmon. He usually seems pretty straight lined and buttoned up. And today he kind of let it down a little bit. And I do think he was frustrated with the process. You could only get called, a cheating, shiesty son of a bitch so many times from 31 other teams around the league. Vegas does a lot of praising of Kelly McCrimmon. And I do know that he has some supporters around the league who aren't Vegas fans. And, coming from a Vegas fan, we always use the, well, you're just jealous your front office isn't like ours. And we are very spoiled as a fan base. I mean, they're always in on the big splash. They're always in on the moves, and they always want to win. And when you have that combination, and now because of the success we've had, and however you feel like we've gotten that success is up to you and your perspective. But it's now a destination for superstars. And even better, what I like the most about it is even though these superstars are household names and they weren't year one with that misfits, they bring on that misfit mentality and that chip on their shoulder. I like a good chip on the shoulder. I like a good prove it, watch me, almost like I'm going to do it because fuck you, that's why. I like that. I always have liked that about athletes. I not too many jobs you're able to have that mentality going in. Like, I dare you to go to your office job and be like, yeah, I got that deal done because like it's probably not gonna go over as well. But it's cool. You get to see, somebody take something personal and use that as motivation and put it into a positive way. And yeah, I'm very excited. I think the future, at least these next, it opens up the window to a point where, everybody was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And we're like, man, we got about 2 or 3 more years with this window. And then, I don't even know what kind of extension Jack's going to look like having. And once Stone is like, Mitch Marner is effectively Stone's replacement. Eventually, he's still got a lot of good hockey left in him, but he's more skill. He is just as defensively responsible. He has more finesse. He has more of a scoring touch, and he's more creative with the puck than Stone is. And because of his physical abilities, like I've said this before, like it's no shock to anybody when you say like it looks like Stone is stuck in the mud, like I mean, he even holds his stick awkward when he's not. He's like holding it straight up in the air. He's a big old caveman. They call him the Manitoba Maniac. He's a crazy person. He's uber talented and the smartest person in the NHL. But I mean, he's got a lot to be desired for a professional athlete. He might. I mean, he it just doesn't look like the same sort of product as an elite level. Like when you're looking at an Olympic team, all the most elite of the elite for every nation, he's in on that team. But when you can see what the other players who are that caliber, the Connor McDavids, the Mitch Marners, the Sidney Crosbys, the Nathan McKinnons, the Cale Makars, like that Team Canada team is stacked. Shea Theodore, they all have like these insane upsides and they skate beautifully and everything's it's like art watching them play. And then it's like this horror show watching Mark Stone play, but he gets the job done. And it's also in its own right, like, oh my God, you knew to stand right there because X, Y, and Z. And you saw that happen in the first period, so you know that in the third period this would work. So it's a cool he sees the game differently than others because he has to. I think that's awesome. But I say all that to say, Mitch Marner's coming in. He's younger. You know, he is more expensive now. And Kelly said it basically this afternoon, this evening, that like, hey, someone's going to have to shoot the puck. That's implying that they're on the same line. Mark Stone doesn't play left wing. Mitch Marner doesn't play left wing. So I think for the foreseeable future, we got to think about this. It's Barbie, Eichel, Marner. And I know it works on the power play, but you're not putting Hurdle and Stone together. That is a recipe for getting blown coverages. It is smart and defensively sound as Stone is. Hurdle isn't, and he isn't fast either. And he can't skate as well as these other players. So I really do think that you're looking at a third line of Smith, Carlson, Stone, or a 2B line, whatever you want to call it. 1, 2, 3, 4. When Vegas is on their game, it doesn't matter who's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're rolling 4 lines. We have a scoring line, a secondary scoring line, a checking line that can score, and a line that's going to keep that puck in the zone, or if it isn't, they're going to make you hurt on the boards until that puck squirts out and we can get it back up ice. That's how we play Vegas hockey. As much time as we can spend in your zone, as easy as we can make it on Adin Hill, and as easy as we can make it on our offense to just play responsible, go up, get possession, and go for it. And that's how we've been successful in the past. Because now you have 2 playmakers on the top line, and he's right. Someone's gonna have to shoot that puck. Mitch Marner's great. He has a good shot. Jack Eichel has a phenomenal shot, and I hope that having another visionary as far as with the puck is concerned opens him up to take some risk and take some shots. You have somebody who's just as good, if not better than you defensively. Like, let it go, dude. Let that thing rip. And then you have Barbashev, who's just this like human wrecking ball. I mean, they Spit and Chicklets a couple of years ago during the Cup run called him the cigarette machine. He's just this giant rectangle out there who just wants to take your head off. Not afraid of physicality, and he can finish. So don't forget he was our leading goal scorer going into until he got hurt. I believe he got hurt in Minnesota. I think Foligno got tied up with him and he was out for a bit. But he was at like 25 goals at that point. Him and Howden, I think, at the time, him and Howden were like just trading off goals. And then Hurdle and Dorofeyev they climbed up, and the power play was just rocking last year. So I think, yeah, that second line is going to be Saad, Hurdle, Doro, and that third is going to be Smith, Carlson, Stone. And as of right now, after the moves were made, we're looking at Sissons, Colasar, and Howden, or Howden, Sissons, Colasar. Made mention of Sissons last year. He didn't put up at much points, but he's playing wing, and he's a much more natural centerman. Apparently his face-off numbers are some of the best in the league, and he's more of that shutdown, I think after a while, Nick Waugh, you're scoring 15 goals a year on the fourth line. You're probably looking to score more. That's not to say that he like lost his game, because he was great up until the end. But I think you kind of, you lose what it is that got you to the dance, maybe. where I think Sissons is going to just like stay the course and play his game. And I think that's what Cassidy wants. You don't want anything fancy coming out of that fourth line. Howden's going to be the guy who goes up and down it. Every now and then Kolasar gets bumped to the second or on the side of Jack if, someone's hurt or what have you. But yeah, couldn't be more excited. Now, defensively, I'm not as confident as I was in the group last year, but Kelly McCrimmon says he trusts it. Here's the thing, is we're looking about $1.2 million left of cap space. I don't think we're done. And I don't think we signed Dylan Coghlan, former Golden Knight, Dylan Coghlan, back to the Knights today. So we have, and then we signed, I forget his first name, James Magna, another D-man. So we signed 2 defensemen, and obviously Henderson needs players too. So you can't just say, oh, that's what we're doing. But, he did say that he only wanted to travel with 7 and not 8 defensemen. So that's going to be very telling. Korzak's getting the call. Petro actually name dropped him and said, hey, I think Korzak's ready to take the step. He is an everyday NHL defenseman. And he's trusting Zach with a higher line role, which looks like he's going to be on the side of Hanifin. When it was working, when Hanifin was playing really well this year, he was with Zach Whitecloud. And then Lazon looks like he's going to play with Korzak. I don't know if we don't try to go after Anderson from Calgary. I made up this like 3-way trade earlier for funsies, and the more I sit and think about it, I'm like, I think this could happen. It's giving Connolly a 2027 second and Ben Hutton to Buffalo. They received that from Vegas. Bowen Byram to Calgary, and Anderson to Vegas with about 33% retained. We'll see. I don't think that that's going to happen. And every time I posted it today, I was like, listen, I'm not saying this is what I think is going to happen. It would be sweet. And I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, because if there's a will, there's a way. And he has name dropped Vegas specifically that this is the only team he would sign an extension with. Him and Hanifin have history. Vegas and Calgary have history with trades. It's obviously worked out a lot better for Vegas, but, let's go. Let's do it again. They still got Danil Miramonov, and they still have Braden Pahal on their team, and good for them. I don't know if Miramonov is still on the team, so don't quote me on that. Again, I'm not the stat guy. But yeah, I think that they're not done. I'm also not sure that they don't go after and try to get. The goaltender market was like Jake Allen got 5 times 1.8. Like, that's such a steal. And I'm not saying I don't like Akira Schmid, but I'm not also sold that he's like a clear-cut 1B or the backup that Aiden Hill needs. Now, that will bring me to my next topic here. In a few different times today and a lot of times in the past, especially when you're talking about people who we might bring on, they're talking about goalies, and it's always we need to get Hill somebody else, or we need to look at investing into another goaltender in Hill. Look, Sergei Bobrovsky, Andrei Vasilevsky, Igor Shesterkin, Jake Ottinger, Connor Hellebuck, Jordan Binnington. 6 NHL goalies are clear-cut number 1, only need a minimal backup. Do not think otherwise. Do not think that any other goaltender, whether they are on your team or used to be on your team, is going to take you and make the difference. You have goalies you can win because of, and you have goalies you can win with. Those 6 you can win because of. The goalies you win with are the rest of them. Do you want good games from a backup? Yes, no kidding. Do you want to have a serviceable backup who isn't super far away from a 900 save percentage? Yeah. We did not trade the wrong goalie. If I see it again, oh God, it bothers the shit out of me. Okay. Here's my take on this. And I know for a fact most of the VGK fan base, we'll say half. Half is going to disagree, and that's okay. Everyone thinks LT was the better goaltender. LT had a .910. Adin Hill had a .06. That's the only goaltending during the regular season. That is the only stat he beat out Adin Hill in. Adin Hill had more wins. Adin Hill had more shutouts. He had fewer goals against above expected. Like, every other metric you could think of, Adin Hill beat him. Now, the two metrics that matter the most, wins, which he had more of, and it's not a metric on the stat sheet, but you had two former coaches, Bruce Cassidy. Don't trust this one as much, but Pete DeBoer. They were both coaches for the Four Nations. When they were picking the Four Nations team, and coaches definitely had input, they chose not to go with a LT. By the way, LT was playing much better than Adin Hill at the time. I'm not going to sit here and say that there weren't stretches of hockey last year that LT wasn't the better goaltender, because he was. And he is going to have really incredible pockets every year. There will always be a fall off. He'll always have some sort of weird nagging injury, just like Adin Hill will always have a little bit of an injury history as well. So I'm not saying he's clear far and away, but for this Vegas team, he is the better option. He listens to Sean Burke. He doesn't have an attitude. He isn't a prima donna. And you think he's boring and lets in soft goals. I think LT's constantly out of position and needs to make flashy saves by diving across the other side of the crease because he was in a bad position to begin with. We are not the same. LT's fine. But two of the people who coached him, who've been coaching for longer than you've watched hockey, most likely, think he had an attitude problem. Thinks that he's a prima donna. Unless you have a personal relationship with them, but even if that is, then you have a bias. Look at what happens. Adin Hill was the product of impeccable timing in a great run in an undeniable team. I think it wouldn't have mattered who we had in goal. Vegas was winning that Stanley Cup. It was just written on the wall. From the moment we entered the playoffs, there was just like, no one was bigger, no one was more physical, and no one, just everything was firing other than the power play. And then, by the way, we're down to our fourth string goalie. Brossoit let us in. LT was hurt. So it doesn't matter if you think skill for skill. Part of the thing is staying healthy. And up until that point, Adin Hill wasn't the most healthy goalie either. But going into that season, he was the 1B. And at times, he looked better than LT. So, but here's the real reason. Here's the real thing. Kelly McCrimmon had a choice at the time. You sign LT to a long-term extension worth about the same as Hill got, and ride it out with him and let Hill ride off into the sunset to another team. Or you sign Hill and you let LT ride off into the sunset. It didn't get that far because LT requested a trade. We didn't trade the wrong goalie. He was never going to get traded. He requested the trade. So knock it off with it. Enough. Adin Hill is who we got. Adin Hill is... He's vegetables. He's what's for dinner. We don't have the Igor Shesterkin money. We got McDonald's at home. Aiden Hill's McDonald's at home. He does enough for this team, especially with the defensive structure that we normally play with. I don't care what the playoff numbers say. We let Minnesota run our show with 2 players for the first 4 games of that series. We barely came back and got the job done. We let Edmonton run our show with their depth. Our defense was high and dry. Come to find out, Pietrangelo's playing when he needed to have bilateral femur replacement. So kick rocks with all that shit. He's only gotten healthier, and he's only played more games every year, and he's only gotten better every year. So just take a breath, write Logan Thompson a letter, mail it to the Capitals front office, hope he reads it, spray it with your perfume, and shut the fuck up about it, please. No one cares anymore. So just move on. Like the guy you got. For Christ's sakes. All right. Fires me up a little bit because it's like, yeah, the guy did nothing and he's awesome. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's like the nicest dude. He stops. He's super chill. Do you not like him because he's super chill? He does that cool, like, whatever thing when he's not, he's like, his feet are dangling like he's a toddler. It's awesome. Maybe I'm a Hill truther. Maybe I'm ride or die in Hill. Maybe that's my next jersey. It's not. I do think I'm going to get a Marner jersey only because he's with us for 8 years, but that also means nothing because Vegas could just like figure it out and send him on his merry way if he needs to. It would be really nice though that Vegas gets something done with Jack like before the season. Not saying I'm worried. I think Jack's sticking around for a bit, but it would be cool. This is Jack's team. Let's not forget that. So he is going to get 13 to 14, and I think Vegas gives it to him. You have a couple of contracts coming off the books. And if you need to make moves, you make moves because this is Jack's team. He will be when Stone leaves. I have a weird feeling it's going to come down to him or you might hate me for saying this. I do think Zach Whitecloud has a really good opportunity and chance to wear a C. He's been developed here. He's, played all of his NHL games here and just the way he speaks and his cool head and his game is getting better year after year. I just think that he has a strong shot at wearing the next C for this team, but this is Jack's team. Whatever letters on his chest, this is Jack's team. So hoping he feels that way too. And I hope that it's a longer term extension because that'd be sweet. It'd be cool to see what the dynamic duo of Eichel and Marner do for years to come. And I would love my son's memories, his core memories. Like he's been to Knights games. My firstborn has been to Knights games, but like, man, I would love for him to, really find his own favorite player and have his own relationship with the team. And he probably, with my luck, is going to not like the Golden Knights or hockey. For right now, he loves saying the name Pavel Dorofeyev because he thinks it's silly. He said Mitch Marner pretty well today, actually. Mark Stone, every time he slaps a whatever ball is near him in his little hockey net, he does yell and say Mark Stone. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of fan he is later. The jury's out. He's only 2.5, so he's got time. Let's see. LA got older today. They signed Corey Perry to more money than Corey Perry should be getting. They signed Cody Ceci for more money than Cody Ceci should be getting. That's where I want to go. Brad Marchand got signed. Chris Tanev got signed. So Corey Perry's getting signed. So these teams now are signing these older guys, to like 6-year deals, 7-year deals. Brad Marchand signed a 6-year deal today. 37 years old. Brad Marchand's not playing at 43. Look at me. Brad Marchand's not playing at 43. That's just as cap circumvention is putting somebody on LTIR. So for all you finger pointers, look at yourselves in the mirror. If you're celebrating your team's old guy contract today because they were like, oh yeah, look, we got him in for $2 billion per, $3.5 million. Woohoo! Got him in under the cap. You're circumcising just as much. FYI, you're cap circumcisers. Tell me. Get on my shit because people are injured. I can't help that. But you are going to retirement homes, picking up players, telling them, hey, go out and pull yard duty for 7 more years. Bullshit. Yeah. Where was I going before that? Oh, yeah. LA got older. I don't think that they're as competitive as they were. Now, a couple things happened. Nikolai Ehlers did not get signed today, and it came out pretty early that he wasn't going to get signed. And I don't know if it's because, actually, was it the TSN thing said he played golf earlier today. It was like 9 a.m. So, well, I mean, it was 9 a.m. Vegas time, so it was like 12. So, but they knew he'd play. He was on the golf course. I said they're kind of just going to wait and see what's going to happen. Speculation later says it might be down to I'm so sick of hearing it might be down to Carolina. Just do something already, Carolina. Jesus. They did something earlier and they got a little sign and trade done with New York with Keandre Miller. Keandre got 7.5, 7 times 7.5. Good for him. Will he grow his game and do well? I know New York fans hopes he doesn't because they're going to have to deal with that for a long time if he does. But yeah, and so I think that Ehlers, he might go to Carolina. He might pull a Brock Besser. Last week, Brock Besser was everywhere but Vancouver. Today, he signs 7 times 7. 7 times 725? 7 times 725. Got a raise. He's staying home. That's the nature of the game. Maybe he wasn't getting that 8.5, almost 9 million like he thought he was. Maybe he really started doing this. Is it really worth moving? Is it really worth moving my family? I don't know if he has kids. Maybe he does. Is it really worth learning a new system? Maybe I'm shitty at this next place. Now, a couple weeks ago, Brock Besser was dead to all Vancouver fans. And now they are deleting tweets and singing praises. And, there was a lot of that Mitch Marner style hate going Brock Besser's way. And it's pretty quiet up there in Vancouver. Just saying. My in-laws, pretty pumped. But they, at least for my family, my in-laws, they weren't Brock Besser haters. They were bummed that he was going to leave. So I'm super happy for them. They get to keep a fan favorite. And that's my favorite Vancouver Canuck. Him and Connor Garland are, by the way, Garland got a deal done too, but him and Connor Garland are like 1-2. I like that little bastard. Connor Garland has the highest compete level in the NHL. And he is a tiny, tiny human. And I bet you if I looked at his stats, height, and weight, he is probably my size. And I don't think I'm a tiny, tiny human, but I am not a big guy. That's for damn sure. Hey, man, someone's got to be 5'8.5", 5'9", 5'9.5" if I'm wearing taller shoes. Yeah. That's it. That's it. That's not it. Random, real quick. Sorry, last one. I said earlier that Max Pacioretty had talked Mitch Marner almost into it. Said that the community's great, the organization's great, and the raising a family in Vegas is great. Jonathan Marchessault at the end of this year. Vegas is great. That's an outstanding organization. Yada yada. Both of those players out the door shit talked Vegas. Both of them. Marshy said they made their choice. They didn't try hard enough to keep me. They have no loyalty. Max Pacioretty said they're not professional over there. They don't want to win bad enough. They don't want to do that. Well, guess what? What happened when you guys went somewhere else? Come on. Tell me, what happened? You have a bad time? Aw. Didn't work out the first year. Sorry, Pacioretty got hurt, and that's mean. But now you're singing Vegas' praises. Wouldn't be because you don't have a contract, would it? Wouldn't be because you want someone to sign an old guy for 1 year or 2 years. You're not getting 7 years out of Vegas, I'll tell you that, Max. You can calm that shit down now. But yeah, that's all I got today. As always, thank you for your time. Thank you for your ears. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. It was a fun free agency day. I want to put the phone away and Twitter on mute for the next couple of days, but I'm not gonna because there will be some more stuff coming on later. Not tonight, hopefully, but tomorrow, the next day. And yeah, if you like this, please actually hit like. Please hit subscribe. We are 4 subscribers away in 3 more days. 2 more days by the time this comes out. So 2 more days, I need 4 more subscribers. That's easy work. But you guys got to do it. So click subscribe, please. And if you think someone else would like to hear this stuff, send it to them so they can click subscribe. It would be even cooler to be above 100 by July 4th. But you know what? We'll get there when we get there, regardless of the time. But thank you so much. Again, as always, besos mi amigos. Go Knights.